guys, how's it going? Today I'm gonna just try to get as many bulbs planted as I can. We've got a whole bunch loaded up here in the Gator. I've got the leftover Globemaster Alliums that we planted on either end of the Hartley, and I thought that those would look really good. We'll cut back the denim and lace Russian sage today, and we'll plant a whole bunch in there because they'll be tall enough that we'll be able to see them. And I do have a whole bunch of Globemasters that come up behind that boxwood hedge as well. So I think that'll be really pretty. And then around these 4 boxwoods, I've got a blend of tulips called, is it Beaujolais? It's pink, purple, and a cream mix that bloom mid to late season. They range from 16 to 22 inches tall. And I've got 500 here, which means I can plant 125 in each little section. And I'm trying to think back. I don't think I've actually planted bulbs around those boxwoods before. I did have tulips around the urn at one time when the boxwoods were really small. And you know, over the years, tulips are not the best at naturalizing. Daffodils are way better at that. But they've kind of dwindled through the years. And honestly, they're a little bit too short. If they do even bloom, you can hardly see them. So I need something that's taller. And the Globemasters, I want to say they get like a little over 3 feet. Let's look. 34 to 38 inches tall. So just right at 3 feet. And then we've got 7 varieties of daffodils, which are going to be going out into the south garden. I'll run over those varieties after we're done up here. I'm just not sure how long this is going to take. I've got my augers out. I'm going to be using a 3.5 inch auger for the Alliums, and then I'm using this, I think it's like a 2 inch. This one right here, I showed it to you when I planted bulbs around the Hartley. This has been working great for the tulip bulbs, and it creates a little bit smaller of a hole. And then I've got a little bit of starter fertilizer here. I would use bulb tone if I had some on hand, but we pretty much used it all up when we were out planting the bulbs in the orchard. You know, when our friends came down for the weekend, they helped us plant 2,000 bulbs in the orchard and then 500 more tulips out in the landscape. So we pretty much used all the bulb tone at that point. Now, usually I'll aug holes and then sprinkle the fertilizer in the holes, but since I'm going to be planting in such a big space, well, I might just do that. I think that might work. Sometimes, like behind the Hartley, what I ended up doing, because that whole area was planted with bulbs, I just sprinkled the biotone over the whole top of the soil surface and then auged my holes, and it got nicely mixed in. So either way, I think it works. And the leaves are softly falling from the locust trees. The sun's out, it's chilly, but perfect day to get this done. So for the Alliums, we go 7 inches deep. For the tulips, we go 6 inches deep. So I'm gonna just try to get this area done so we can move on to daffodils. And if we can get all of these done today, I think what I have left out in the barn might just be 1 more day's worth of bulb planting, which would be great. all the bulbs done in this area, which turned out to be about 700 bulbs in the end, because let's see, I did 500 of the Beaujolais. I ended up having to run and grab the Angelique tulips, which I think are part of the Beaujolais blend. There's something that looks very similar to that one, but I felt like in some areas the bulbs were spread a little bit too far apart, so I popped a few of those in, about 150 of those, so that's 650, and I did over 50 alliums in the circle. So that's pretty good, I think, for an afternoon. I didn't have quite as much time as I thought I did, so we'll tackle the daffodils a different day. But Chad's also working on leveling the new property. I kind of wanted to show you that too here in a second. But as always, it looks pretty much the same as when I started, except for fewer leaves on the sidewalk, because I did blow those off. So I started off, because the boxwoods are a different size, by putting about 100 holes in the ground around that one. And then I thought that this one might take up about 150. So that would be 250 per side, equaling 500. And then it just, like I said, it was a little too far apart, spread too far apart, to where there was like, I don't know, I think like 10 inches between some of the bulbs. That's really far apart for tulip bulbs. I think they recommend like 5 or 6, I think it says on the tag, 5 or 6 per square foot. Let's see, 5 per square feet. So when you've got them spaced out 10 inches apart from each other, it'd still be pretty, but it just won't be quite the display, you know? Not the impact. In the end, we did end up with more bulbs in the front just naturally because there was more space, but I think it's going to be gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And they're going to get all the light they need. This is kind of a difficult area in the summertime because those back 2 squares get a lot more shade from the locust trees than the front 2. So it's hard to find annuals that like that sort of thing. I think surefire begonias would be a good choice. Maybe next year we'll try that. But in the spring, you know, we're not dealing with leaf canopy. The leaves won't be on the trees when the tulips are coming up, so it will get a lot more sun. See, Chad's right over there, working the new piece of property. And then around here we got the denim and lace cut back, which, you know, sometimes we do it late fall, sometimes we do it early spring. I left several inches. Didn't do a super, you know, bang up job in the cleaning department, but we'll probably come in here with some compost and top dress. But I did about 55, 57 alliums in here. I didn't count in the end, but I think that's about where I ended off. That is going to be so pretty because those will tower above these boxwoods and just be such a fun, whimsical touch, I think. And then we'll look over and be able to see the ones blooming next to the Hartley. And you guys know bulb planting is not one of my favorite gardening chores, just because, you know, it's a lot of work and you don't get to see them for months, but it's always so worth it. Always. I'm always happy that I got out here and did it. I just have to remind myself of that while digging all those holes. Augers do make a huge difference though. Look at this. The mulberry tree just dropped all of its leaves last night. It seems like, well, almost all of them. Look at this. There's a few left up in there. Look at this huge machine. This is a road grader that Chad is working with right here. And this piece of property, it actually slopes down on the back end, and we want to put our high tunnels up back here because we think it's going to be the least in anybody's way or anybody's view, because that building back there is the shop of the people who live in that house, so they won't even see the high tunnels. It's far enough away from their house. We are going to plant some trees along here probably, so we'll block it, and then there will be trees on this side, so it'll be blocked from their view. But we had to get it leveled to where we could do that. So he just takes this big giant machine around. Here he comes. I can't even imagine operating this sort of machine. Oh, it's kind of perfect because you can see all the dirt he's picking up there, all the soil. He'll be able to push that toward the back part of the property and kind of level it out a little bit with the soil from our own property. There's just enough of a grade. It's looking so good. We're thinking about seeding it with a rangeland pasture mix for now, which is good for areas of rainfall between 9 and 11 inches, I think 10 and 11 inches. There's also a dryland pasture mix for areas between, I think it's 12 to 14 inch rainfall areas. Boy, it's been a while. I've been out of the seed selling game for a while. I think rangeland is for 9 to 11 and dryland's for 12 to 14. Anyway, we thought we might seed some of that now and let the spring moisture bring it up. we'll see. I don't know. We don't really have any immediate plans for that space, except for getting the high tunnels up and having a spot to store some things, and possibly overwinter some plants. And then we might just pop a couple of trees along the border for now. But there's so many projects around here that we want to finish and things we're excited about that that's really what we plan to focus on, unless we get a wild hair to do something else right now. But I don't know. I'm ready for I don't know, some of the other projects to be done first, I think. Anyway, guys, that is it for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it. I planted less bulbs than I was hoping to, but that's still 700 less than I'm gonna have to do in the coming days. So, you know, I'm also considering, I might do some in containers, but in plastic containers like I did last year. And I might just plant some in rows in our cut flower garden so I can just use them for cutting and I won't feel bad about cutting them out of my landscape. That's the thing. You know, we plant all these bulbs out in the flower beds and I want to cut them so bad for bouquets, but I feel bad robbing them out of the flower beds because we plant them to look pretty there. It's a conundrum. Anyway, we might end up in the cut flower garden. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.